Then there's flooding. That was also significant. There's flooding that was happening. And then it was my Jerusalem poster falling. So as the years have gone by, as I had this dream in 2011, so it's been 6 years since I've had this dream, and as the years have gone by, it's interesting because Abba keeps taking me back to this dream. And now when we look at this dream, it's very interesting because it's again one of those dreams that 2 parts have been fulfilled. In the sense of where it's interesting, in 2011 when I had this dream, we were not anywhere near having any load shedding, were we? No. As a matter of fact, in 2010, I had traveled, it was 2011, actually it was 2011, yes, 2011. I traveled to Zimbabwe, and I was in Zimbabwe for a week, and that was the first time in my life I ever experienced load shedding, what it means to have your electricity switched off for a period of time, and then water shedding, as we would have the water switched off for a period of time as well. And in the week that I was there, we had load shedding of electricity and we had water shedding of having no water. And I experienced this in a week that I was there in Zimbabwe. And I thought, my goodness, what the heck kind of place is this where now you've already got, you'll have no electricity for like a couple of hours. We would have no electricity. And then, my goodness, we went, I think it was 2 days without having any water. And that was hectic. The electricity was okay, but going without water, that was seriously, seriously hectic. Anyway, then Abba has since showed me that with this dream, isn't it interesting, in 2015, that is when we started going through our, was it beginning of 2015? I think it was the beginning of 2015 when we started to have load shedding. As we started, it was either the end of 2014 or beginning of 2015 that we started to go through load shedding. That all of a sudden we would go for long period of times, remember long period of times that we would go without having any electricity. And this went on for a while, it went on for a good couple of months that this went on. So this is already what I'd seen in my dream. So that was the first sign that I saw, that there was a blackout, meaning there was going to be no electricity. So when I look at it now, I see that, okay, that was a sign. You are going to go through a time when there's going to be no electricity. The second thing that I saw was that there was floods. Now those floods were around here where I stayed, because as I left this house, these floods started to happen. And even as we tried to get onto the highway, I'm seeing cars rolling on the embankment and everything, as I couldn't believe I'd never seen floods. Now, in my life living here in South Africa, I have never seen floods, definitely not around the area where I stay. But the end of 2016, in November 2016, the end of last year, what kind of floods did we see? I mean, there were people who died on the highway because cars were being rolled off from the highway into rivers, into cars floating on the highway because of the floods that we had. And these floods came in different parts of our country, that we had severe flooding. And even until the beginning of this year, we had places again with severe flooding, that it was like it didn't just only happen in the East Rand, then it happened in, Johannesburg and all these different places where these floods started to take place. And this had never happened. I had never seen anything like that I saw in my dream, of floods where a road was like a river and where cars were rolling down embankments because of such severe flooding that we were in this dream. And so when I saw those floodings on TV and everything, I mean, that day, by the grace of Yahuwah, we were at home. We didn't go out, and boy, my back garden was look like it will look very interesting. But we prayed and we prayed as this rain was coming down, and we really prayed, and Abba protected our home. And I mean, we've got a little river down the road from us that was like this whole road over here was totally flooded. And by the grace of Yahuwah, my eldest son was safe, and Dylan and Spuno and them, we were here at home, and my husband being on his way home from work, he was safe in the way that he came. So we were all safe. But I mean, there were many people that had a lot of damage, and there were some people that even landed up losing their lives. And this was hectic. And when I started to see all the videos coming through, and I started to see these things on the news, and I started to see how much flooding started happening in our country at this time, I then remembered the stream. I went back to the stream and I said, Father, that is exactly what I saw in my dream, this flooding. So that was another sign in this dream that Abba was showing me that the timing that we're coming into, you see this dream, first there was a blackout, then mother of all strikes is what I heard. So there's going to be a mother of all strikes, there's going to be a mother of all blackouts. And so there was load shedding, there was blackouts, there was flooding. And then the third thing. And the third thing was the thing that I was woken up with. And that was my Jerusalem picture having to fall. And what was interesting is that we had just had my family over the night before. They had come over for dinner. And we had a lot of plates and everything there on the table, and this Jerusalem picture fell, and it's heavy. It's like a board, it's like a board, and it's heavy. And yet it fell straight. It didn't fall forward. It fell, and it stayed in line with the wall, where it didn't fall forward. It didn't break the plates. It didn't break the glasses. It didn't break anything. But it fell. And then I said, Father, what does this mean? And he said, when you see Jerusalem fall. There is a time that's coming. I don't know when, I don't know how. Like I told you that I saw the sirens in the last dream. Not the sirens, the missiles in the last dream. And I knew that these missiles were coming into Israel. So Jerusalem, something is going to happen with Jerusalem. As we have read in Zechariah, that he says, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling before the nations of the world. So there's something about the Jerusalem board picture that fell that is going to spring forth the war that will finally start here, because these are the signs to say this happened first, then this has happened, and the last thing to happen, which is what I woke up out of this dream with, was a big bang. And that big bang was my Jerusalem picture having to fall. And so something is about to happen in Jerusalem. That it might not mean that because nothing was harmed, it might not mean that there's going to be anything that's going to be harmed, but something's going to happen that's going to trigger off the things that are going to start happening in the earth. That is going to happen, because it's imminent that we are going to go into a time of destruction in this nation. We already see what's going on. These farm killings is not getting any better. It's just getting worse and worse. Abba, have mercy, because we are praying and we are praying, and I don't know how long. How long do we stand back before something's got to give? And so this is basically the dream that the Father gave me in 2011, that we are, I know that this is was a very prophetic dream, because Abba has showed me this dream over and over as I go back, when we started having the load shedding, when I saw the flooding, that I keep going back to this dream to say, okay, Abba, what is the sign? Now, the most important thing out of this dream that I need to be able to speak is the fact that we've just had a word that's gone out. I received this word on Sunday night from a person that put it on my cell phone, on my WhatsApp, which is this video of this woman that's giving a prophetic message, where she says, it's amazing, because this prophetic message is confirming everything that the Father started to speak to me in terms of the suffering servant of the persecution that is going to come, and how we're going to be persecuted for our faith, for the fact that we will stand for who He is, and we will not bow our knee, and we will not take the mark of the beast, and we will not take the things that are going to come. We need to understand we are on the verge of some or other catastrophe that is about to happen, that's going to bring on a one world order, that's going to raise up the anti-Messiah, the Antichrist that's going to raise up, so that you can then have the things that are going to have to take place. Something has to happen. Understand, the way the world is sitting right now, there's no need for a man of peace to raise up right now, is there? We don't have a need for it right now, because the world is not in disarray. Yes, in certain countries it's out of control, but it's still not at that place of where it's, in disarray. But look and see what's already happening in America right now since they saw this eclipse, this lunar eclipse. Now you've got all this flooding that's happening in Houston and everything. And this woman is speaking and she's saying, many of you are going to have to, Father is going to say to you, run, take a bag, go. So my most important thing in this dream that I want to share with you today is the fact that you need to hear the Father. We are in a time right now that it is critical. It is critical right now that we are hearing our Father's voice. And we need to follow and obey what the Father tells us to do. Because there will be some that the Father will say, stay. There will be some that the Father will say, leave. Like we saw what happened in the fires in Nazna. There was one or two of them that they spoke and they said the Father told them to stay. And they had to pray. And when they stayed in the house, the fire moved and it didn't burn their house. There were others that had to leave. And yet their houses were protected, but they had to leave, as the Father put it in their hearts that they were to leave. So the most important thing right now is, it is significant that we are hearing Abba's voice. It is significant that we are being led by His Ruach. It is significant that we are taking the time to be able to hear His voice as we read His word and as we become more and more familiar with who He is and how does He operate. Because I want to say something. Those two people that stayed with us, that stayed in this house, in my dream, remember I told you there were two people staying with me in the house. And what's very interesting, these two people, I spoke to them and I said to them, we need to go. We cannot stay. We must go. Father says we're going to go, because if we stay, we will be destroyed. We will be killed. Now it's so interesting, because these two people in my dream, in the end, I'm telling them we need to go. And they are rebelling and saying, no, we will stay, because nothing's going to happen to us. Now it's so interesting, because all these years down the line, these two people at this time when I had this dream, they were very much walking the Torah path with us, on this Torah path. I had come out of a church system, came out of serving, bowl and all these things that's to do with bowl. They got rid of the bowl names from their lips. They got rid of the bowl worship. Bowl meaning, if every time when I talk about bowl, every time our Bible has changed this name of Yahuwah to Lord. They changed it to Lord, and Lord means bowl. So if we carry on in this bowl worship, we will carry on with these bowl things. And so they had come out of that. They were no longer, in Hosea, we know in Hosea that he talks about Hosea chapter 2. Let me just quickly, I don't know why I was highlighting this to me right now, but I just feel I need to read this because I think this is important, because I'm about to speak something of where it's important that we're just really hearing Abba at this point in time. And we need to obey. As I told them that they were to obey and come out, and they did not want to do it. And what has happened in their lives since? And this was just a dream. In Hosea chapter 2, Abba turns around and he says, and it shall be in that day, declares Yahuwah, that they call me my husband, and they no longer call me my Baal. They no longer call me my Lord, but they will call me my Yahuwah. It's Hosea chapter 2, verse 16. And it shall be in that day, declares Yahuwah, that you call me my husband and no longer call me my Baal. Let me just see, what does it say? Because I just happen to have this Bible over here. I just happen to have a New King James over here. Let me see, what does it say in the New King James? What did I say? Verse 17. 16. They're so clever. And it shall be in that day, says the Lord, that you will call me my husband and no longer call me my master. Oh, they're so clever. So they take out that name, my Lord, because they're using Lord for them to be able to say the Father's name is Lord. So therefore now they put my master, as opposed to saying my Lord, which is actually my Baal. Because the word, if you go look up at the concordance word for the word Baal, you will come back to the word Lord. So these people were in the house with me, and this was in 2011 that I had this dream. And as at last year, from last year, 2015, in 2015, these people have now gone back to church. They are full back in a Sunday church, and they are back in doing Christmas, doing Easter, doing everything that they had been taken out of. So everything that they were walking in, that was following this path, following the ways of Yahuwah, knowing his Shabbat, knowing his feasts, knowing his name, knowing all of that, they've gone back to a Sunday church, back to everything that they've been delivered out of. So even that in my dream has come to light, where I said, Father, how is it possible that these are the two people that rebelled in the dream when I said we need to go, and they didn't want to listen to go? They said, no, we'll stay. Nothing's going to happen to us. And now today, they are the same two people that have now gone back into the ways of the church once again, into that mixed seed that you came out of. So the most important thing we need to understand right now is we need to get to a place of where we really start to hear Abba Father and the things that are dear to his heart. Because when we get to the next dream, which I'm going to cover next week, as I get to the next dream, which is going to come up with the vision of Noah on an ark, and as I'm going to bring this whole thing to a close, we need to understand that the most important thing right now is we better start becoming obedient to what Abba says in his word. And if Abba gives you instruction and Abba speaks to you, you have to obey. So for some they have to stay, for some they have to go. But I say to you, if you haven't even learned how to follow Abba in his word, how are you going to follow him in what he speaks? How are you going to follow him in what he speaks? Because we need to learn to become obedient. Remember who were the true worshippers. Those who are worshiping in spirit, what he speaks to you right now, and in truth of his word. The two go hand in hand. The two go together. And that is why we need to understand that right now it is imperative that we start to obey our Father. Because he's cleaning up his bride. Hosea chapter 2, oh my goodness, I should do a teaching on Hosea chapter 2 alone on who is the bride. Because Hosea chapter 2 talks about who is the bride. And if you really want to know, that is where the secrets are. Because that's something that he revealed to me. That he will remove the bold names from your lips. He will remove all those bold names that we speak. He will remove your feast days, your solemn assemblies, your gatherings, your new moons, your calendars, your things that you're keeping. He's going to remove all of that, is what he said in Hosea. He will remove these things from you. Because if you are his bride, he needs to clean you up. So that we will not be a body divided, because at the moment, we are no different to the church. You know what? The church has got how many denominations? And then we are all so-called people following Yahuwah. But my goodness, we cannot agree on anything. Because then this one follows that calendar, that one follows that calendar, and we are not coming onto the same page. My father's not confused. There is a way that he does things, and he's not confused. And in everything that it is, we will have to come back to truth. So you cannot have one on one calendar, another one on another calendar, and another one speaking his name like this, and another one speaking it like that, because the Father is going to have to bring us online. Because either we're hearing the Ruach or we're not. Either we're hearing him or we're not hearing him. And so, that is why I turn around and I say, you know what, the time is now that we really need to start to seek him. And guess what? It's not in all the research that we're going to do that we're going to find him. It's going to be in the hearing of him speaking, because some things he's going to reveal to us. You know, remember, when they were walking with him in the book of Acts, you know, this is something that is so dear to my heart every time. Because, you know, there are sometimes I don't even have a scripture for the things that he reveals to me. And I say, Abba, you know what, I don't even know, where is it in the scripture? And sometimes he's expecting me to obey him, even though I'm not seeing it in scripture. And you know how many times I obey him? And then when I'm reading through Torah or I'm reading through something, all of a sudden, there is the scripture for the thing that I was obedient to. Because sometimes he wants to test you. Will you obey him? Will you just obey him? And we really need to get to the place of where we start to come in line, because right now I'm looking at this body and I'm seeing so many divisions. And I'm saying, what are we doing? I mean, I don't understand, even when it comes to his name, for example. There's so many divisions. Because now it's not a who, it's a va, and it's a w, but yet I don't understand. You read just about every single time that you read the prophets, you read Isaiah, Yeshayahu, and then you read Jeremiah, Jeremiyahu, and then you read Elijah, and it's Eliyahu, and then you read so many of the other people that names is Eliyahu, it's Yahu, but now we want to make it a V. So we make it Yav, because it will be a V. Because no, it can't be a U. The Vav is not a U sound, it's not. Do you see what I'm saying? But just this week when Abba started to show me the month of Elul, I was busy reading something from Jim Staley. Jim Staley has just sent out the most beautiful word of the month of Elul. And he was explaining the month of Elul, and he was explaining it with the Paleo Hebrew. And he was putting the Aleph and the Lamed and the Vav and the Lamed, and he's writing it in the Paleo Hebrew. He's writing it in the Paleo Hebrew. And in the Paleo Hebrew, that you for the month of Elul, that you of the month of Elul is a Vav, which is a woo sound. He even explains how it's a woo sound. So he's writing Elul, and he's writing it in the Paleo Hebrew, the Aleph in the Paleo Hebrew, and he's giving you that the Aleph is he's the strong, and then the Vav is the stake, and he's explaining it all with the sound that goes with it. But then when it comes to him writing his name, then he says Yahweh. So then how does that Vav that is in Yahuwah's name become a Va sound or a Wa sound when it's a Wu sound? Because that's our mindset. We cannot see these things because we are so stuck in what we've been taught. But we need to come out of our shells. And this is what is going on in the body at the moment. We are so divided. And then the Jews are keeping a calendar in a certain way because they have a calendar that comes from the time of when they were in the dispersion in Babylon. And they keep a dark moon. So then there's those keeping a dark moon. Then there's those keeping a new moon. And I say, how can it be a dark moon if you need to see the signs in the heavens? Then how is it a dark moon if you need to see those signs in the heavens? And I mean, if he starts the month in the west, I mean, he starts the day, we look west when we start the day, because the sun sets in the west. So why is his month going to start in the east now, when the moon is setting in the east? Now we got to look for a new moon there. As you see the sun setting, so the new moon comes up, and it comes up only for a short period of time, and then it's gone. And to me, I see this beautiful smile of the Father in the heavens that's smiling upon us. And that is how we keep a month. And then I understand about the keeping of the what's it called? The Tekufa, which is the equinox for when it changes from winter into spring. You got to go, not only the barley, there has to be a change of season, which is called the Tekufa in the Hebrew. And these are the things that are important. But you understand now we throw out everything. We throw out sun, and we throw out moon, and we throw out everything, and now we only look for an equinox, and now we keep our calendar according to that. What are we doing? Yet if we go look, even in Jeremiah, this was so interesting because we were busy with Jeremiah, and Father just showed that even when it comes to that, because we are so divided in our mindsets, and we will not willing to change because we're not willing to be wrong. Because this is how I've understood to do it all along, so let me do it like this, because you know what? Is it because you've taught people all this time and now you're not willing to say, oh, actually I was wrong? If you're not willing to do that, it's called pride. That's what it's called. It's called pride. My pride had to be broken. When I started with Yahweh and then went to Yahweh and then went to now I started with Yahweh, then went to Yahweh, then went to Yahweh again, and then went to Yehovah, and then finally he revealed to me it was Yahuwah. And my pride was broken. I had so many people saying, gee, Natalia, every time we see you saying it in a different way. Because if we're not willing to change, then we need to look within ourselves. Because this is what Abba's doing in this time, making sure that he checks our hearts to see, are we standing up against something because of what? Because here's the scripture that the Father gave me in Jeremiah 31, that it says, thus says Yahuwah, Jeremiah 31 verse 35, thus says Yahuwah, who gives the sun for a light by day and the laws of the moon and the stars for a light by night, who stirs up the seas and its waves roar. Yahuwah of hosts is his name. And these are laws vanish from before me. If these laws vanish from before me, declares Yahuwah, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. So he's saying, I put the sun, the moon, and the stars in the heaven as laws on how I'm going to do things, as signs. And they will never disappear. This is how I will do my things. But now we want to do it our way. We want to do it our way because, hang on a second, this is this big revelation that I got on that side. If he says that he's put the sun, the moon, and the stars, he's not going to remove the sun, he's not going to remove the stars, he's not going to remove the moon. So if the moon is there to be seen as a new moon, then it's there to be seen. The only difference is you go seek the Father like I had to seek the Father, whether I keep a dark moon or a new moon. Because I had to seek him on that. And then he revealed to me. And the way he revealed it to me, I have signs and wonders that have followed with the things that he has done, because we have been all over the world having to do things for him in different places where we've been on the islands of Patmos, we've had to be in Israel, we've had to be in Turkey, we've had to be in all these places. I mean, how do you get to the Church of Philadelphia exactly at the time of when we are in Yom Teruah and there's a new moon in the sky? And this is the faithful church, and we've just entered into the time of Yom Teruah. Things that the Father has done because He's got His signs that go with it. And so I just feel that I need to share these things because do you see, sometimes Father's trying to speak, but people don't want to listen because we're set in our ways and we're set in our mindsets and we're set in the way we've done things, and we're set in maybe because this is the Bible that you read and it's saying it differently to what if you go and research it in the Hebrew scriptures. And now we want to stand with that. And so we really need to be able to get to a place, because these two people that were in my house, where are they now? They've gone back. Gone back to what? Gone back to everything that we came out of. So what is the Father trying to show me? There's many that are going to fall away in this time. Many that are going to fall away. And next week's dream is going to give you the insight of that when I start to tell you about the multitude in the valley of decision. They need to make decisions to now become obedient to Him. Okay. Now, I want to start with my 2014 journal, because this is what I'm going to now be reading from, where I'm going to read the next dream that I'm going to share then, where I will continue next week, because I'm going to finish this one with the concordance numbers that Abba gave me. And then the next dream will also be from 2014. So understanding that my 2014 journal now is the third day to what we are in now. So from what he spoke this in 2014, because I've worked through my 2012 journal, I've worked through my 2013 journal, and there's nothing there that I can say that there is for me to be able to share. It's a lot of things that Abba's saying, but nothing that is to share. So 2011, 7 years will be next year. 2010, 7 years is now. So I don't know, I'm just sharing as Father's telling me. So in 2014, now I'm sure I've explained before that, I've explained before that Father, ever since I got saved, I give Abba Father a time where I fast for Him from the 1st of February leading up to the time of when I was saved, which works out to 40 days. And this is a time of where I set aside for Him these 40 days as I'm coming into a new season with Him. And it always sort of like also corresponds with me preparing for the new year. That will normally be in March, as we're coming into the new year in March. So I take this time aside to seek Him. And as I think it was on my 3rd day or my 4th day of my fast. It was on the 4th day of my fast. On the 4th of February in 2014, as I went to bed that night, I was lying there, and the next minute the strangest thing happened to me that's never happened to me before. I mean, I've just switched off the lights, and now I'm about to go to sleep, and all of a sudden I start seeing numbers going through my mind. And I thought, am I going mad? What am I seeing here? And I just started to see numbers. I started to see numbers, 5781, 8253, 7461, 5763. It was like numbers. And I thought, what is going on here? But I felt in my spirit, as I was seeing these numbers so vividly, next to me I had my journal and I had my pen, and in the dark I just grabbed my journal and I just started to write these numbers down as I was seeing them with my mind's eye. And I just started to write them down, and I got 6 numbers in total that came to me. So imagine, you're lying and all of a sudden you're just seeing these 6 numbers that don't make sense. They're just 6 numbers that you're seeing that don't make sense to nothing. And then I got up and I switched on the light and I thought, oh my goodness, and I'm staring at these numbers and I'm saying, what the heck are these numbers? I said, Abba, what are you showing me here? What are these numbers? I'm writing these numbers down. And they were in a sequence. I had to write them down in a sequence as I got them. So the first one, then the second one, then the third one, then the fourth one. And so they were numbers that I wrote down in a sequence, 6 of them that I wrote down, that didn't make any sense to me. And all of a sudden I just heard him say, go look up these numbers in the concordance. They are concordance numbers. Well, I know nothing about going to look up numbers in a concordance. So I went to Elsie and I said to her, listen, either I'm going mad or I don't know, but Abba is just giving me numbers. And he just told me now that they are concordance numbers. So please just go and see if you can find concordance, go into the Strongs or whatever and try and see what do these words mean. So for each number that I wrote down, there was a specific message. So the very first concordance number was distress, affliction, quietness, fear and trembling, suckling child, hovering over, begin to be dark, shadow, bitter springs. And I thought, okay, Abba, what are you trying to tell me out of all of this? Because surely something is happening. And the Father gives me this message. Now understand, I cannot fabricate this. I cannot. Not even if I try, can I fabricate something like this. So that if he wants to talk, he will talk through a donkey. If he needs to talk through a donkey, so that you may know that he's giving a message. And this is now him giving me a message, because first of all, I didn't even know what these numbers were. I'm seeing them. And then what are the chances that these numbers are going to mean something? And they say, this is it. There is distress and affliction. Just when you think it is quiet, just when you think it's quietness, that there's a quietness in the air, we need to fear and tremble. It is like a suckling child's stages. Still young. It's beginning to be dark. It's hovering over us like a shadow. We will drink from bitter springs. Sure. Not even if I tried. And this was a message that he was giving me as I had entered into my 40-day fast, beginning at the beginning of 2014. So 2014 was going to be a year that he was going to make me take note, as this is now, as I'm in my preparation, coming into, a season and a time that we're going to go into of because normally the new year is coming into March. We spot the new moon, for the new year and everything. And this is the message that he gave. Now, if this was 3 years ago, and if it was at the stage of a suckling child, where are we now? So he said, there is distress and affliction. Just when you think it is quiet, there's quietness, that there's a quiet, that there's a calm, that it all looks so wonderful, we need to fear and be trembling. And it's not so much a fear of what's going on around us, but it's coming back to the fear of Yahuwah. And sometimes people need to fear to come back to him. You need to understand that there is a fear, a real fear, that we need to wake up. What more must he tell you before you wake up to understand that he's trying to say, wake up. You need to come back to me. Wake up. It is like a suckling child stage. It's in the stages of a suckling child, still young. It's beginning to be dark. It's hovering over us like a shadow, and we will drink from bitter springs. So this is the thing that is in the horizon that has been brewing. And we are now in the third day of this prophetic message that He supernaturally gave, that could never have come from me, because how are the chances I'm going to get all these concordance numbers in a sequence, in a row, that's going to mean this message? Not even if I tried. And I have not shared this with many people. Only those that are friends of mine and everything, that I shared this at the time when it was given to me. But now, that's why Abba said, get your journals out, send out this prophetic insight, because timing is of the essence. My people now need to seriously start to catch a wake-up call. And I'm just doing what the Father tells me to do. I'm not going to say that something specific is going to happen now. I'm not going to say that it's going to happen, that all these things are going to happen now. What I'm saying is, He's told me this is the third day. He's told me I am to be able to put this together. What He wants to do with it, I am just a messenger. I am nothing but a messenger, having to give the message of what He has conveyed to me. I give to you today. That is what I'm having to do. This is what He's wanting us to do. This is the way that it is. Then, a few days later, on the 17th of February, while still in my time of fasting, wow, interesting, it's on the 17th. On the 17th of February. Number 17, very significant. As I was in my quiet time, worshipping Him, almost 2 weeks after He's given me these 6 concordance numbers that, of what He's telling me, of this darkness that is approaching and of what is coming. While I was in my time of worshipping Abba, I was dancing here in my dining room, and I was, spending my quiet time, and a lot of my quiet time, sometimes I'm in time of dancing. And as I was dancing before Abba, He started to give me concordance numbers. And I quickly grabbed a pen, and I grabbed a piece of paper, and I just started writing. And the more I danced, the more these numbers were coming. These numbers were coming. These numbers were coming. And I wrote them all down. And they were 20 concordance numbers. And it's interesting because on the 17th day, which is the day of vanquishing of the enemy, the number 17, the vanquishing of the enemy. Anyway, this day, Abba gave me 20 concordance numbers. Double completion. 10 and 10. You're 20. And this is what the message is. It's to seal up, to mark. So the first one, to seal up, to mark. So He's going to seal us up. He's going to mark those. He's sealing those that are His. And He's going to mark you. Doesn't it say in Revelation, we are to seal up those that are ours? Seal them. Let nothing happen unless you seal my remnant first. He had to seal the 144,000. They were being sealed. So this message is once again for the remnant, those who are being sealed. To seal up, to mark, to mold into a form, as a potter shapes and forms. So He's going to seal us up, then He's going to mold us into a form. And it is quickly prepare it to hasten to dress it. So He's quickly going to prepare it, and it's going to hasten in its formation of whatever it is it's supposed to come into, to be soft and pleasant, to be as the ray of the sun. So these people that he's preparing now, that he's marking off, he's going to mold them into a form, he's going to prepare them. It's a quick prepare and hasten the preparation to make them soft. They will be pleasant. They will be as the rays of the sun, as the brilliant rays of sun. So we are to shine his light. We will be as brilliant as the rays of the sun, which means, remember I said to you in the last one, we're going to thrust forth, to shine forth his glory. So we need to be as the ray of the sun to be able to shine forth his glory. To become a dwelling place, a booth. We need to be a booth, a dwelling place. This is what we discussed last week when I discussed that we are to become the tabernacle that he wants to dwell, the booth, the tabernacle, a dwelling place, a permanent dwelling place that he is wanting, a temple. So we are to become the temple, a permanent dwelling place for him. Yahuwah will sustain us in this time. Yahuwah, will sustain. He becomes our sustenance. He will sustain us. Yahuwah will sustain. So in this time, he will be the one to sustain us. To bring about love and increase. So he's going to bring about love and increase. To prepare for a habitation. So he's going to bring about love and increase, which is the preparing us for habitation. Because this is something that the Father has been saying. I do not want just a visitation. I want a habitation. I want to inhabit you. You are to become my habitation. So we are used to having a visitation. Let me go have my quiet time to have visitation. But he wants habitation. He wants to inhabit us. Rest, celebrate with praises, so that we can come into that rest in him, so that we can celebrate in praises. It's a place of increase where he wants, this place that he wants is to be a place of increase. He's going to increase everything in us that needs to be increased. So whatever it is that needs to be done for us to come into the fullness. To protect, to help, to assist, to aid, he will help us. So he's the one who's going to help us. To be his sheep. To be the ewes. The female sheep. Law or providence. So that we become his sheep that will know his law or his providence. Who belong to Alua. We are to be an Israelite that will belong to Yahuwah. And he creates for us a resting place where we may lie down. And he girds us up with a belt. So what belt is that? If he girds you up, he girds you with a belt of truth. Because it's the belt of truth that he's girding us up with. That's why he's revealing to us the depths of his heart, so that we may know his truths. And we will be like a well, that he may drink from our pleasantness, and where others may drink from us. So we become like a well, and that we will have trust and confidence in him alone. And that's the 20 concordance numbers that, as I've worked through them, that's what each one of them means. And that's the entire message of the 20 concordance numbers. Of his promise for his bride, for his remnant. Now, this was the message that I said in 2014. So I've spent a lot of time in the previous dream going into detail, understanding the book of when we work through Zephaniah 1, 2, and 3, when we work through Zechariah 9, when we work through Hosea 6, when we work through Haggai 1 and 2, for us to get the bigger understanding of who is this bride, of what is he busy doing, of his setting apart a people, And so we've heard now that there is great darkness. That was 3 years ago that this thing was hovering like the stages of an infant, of a suckling child. So where are we now already? This thing has grown. But yet he gives a promise. Abba will never ever will he be able to rebuke without bringing encouragement on the other side. If he rebukes, he will encourage. Just like a parent. How do I do it with my children? On the one hand, I need to rebuke them because they need to come in line, isn't it? But on the other hand, I will encourage them. And, that I love them, that I'm with them, that just because mommy is upset with you, just because I'm reprimanding you right now, just because I'm telling you off right now, doesn't mean to say that I don't love you, that I don't appreciate you, that I don't take care of you, that you don't mean everything to me, because at the end of the day, that is our Father. On the one hand, he's just and he's righteous, and on the other hand, he is loving and he's kind. But we're never to be able to take one away from the other. So when people want to turn around and say it's just love, 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 you forget that he's got a side of his that's righteous and that he's just. Because imagine if you were just showing your children love, 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 and you never reprimanded them. Where are those children going to... So you know what, they do something wrong and you just come and you say, oh, my child, I just love you. What is that going to help your child? You start to warn them and say, listen, you're being disobedient. You give them the first warning. Then you give them another warning. By the time you get to the third warning, they're going to get a smack. Because it says, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Is it not? But in this day and age, we don't want to be able to reprimand our children with being able to smack them. Because we try to reason with them. My father's tried a lot to reason with me. And when I don't want to listen to the reasoning, I will go through a severe little testing in my life that's going to cost me in many ways. And I come out from there and I say, whoa, I don't want to do that again. But how is it that we seem to put Father in a different box? I don't understand. We put Father in a box of where he's this loving Father, but he's not just and righteous, He's just going to let me get away with everything. Oh, I don't need to be reprimanded for anything. You know what? He's just going to love me. So you know what? I can just allow, people to do whatever and it's okay. And, my children can get away with everything. It's okay. It's no problem. I'm just going to love them. No. That is not the way Abba works. Because we need to read the scriptures. That's why it's important that we get the balance. If we're only going to read through the New Testament, we're never going to see him in the Old Testament, which is not new and old, but we don't see him in the foundation. The foundation, he didn't tolerate the nonsense. Do you understand? If he said, you go there and you destroy everything, you destroy everything. And if you don't do that, guess what happens? Now imagine with Achan, what happened with him? Like I said, like I explained last week, if he gave an instruction and said, take none of the spoils, take none of what is there with you, and now you go and you take those spoils and you bring it home, the whole of Israel came under judgment. So guess what happens? Every single time one person, look at just what's happened now. All of this went out. Because now we're going to do a feast all over again, and now guess what happens again? Fires. Fires come. Now this nation all fires came again. And I said, oh Father, please will you just have mercy on us? Please, Abba. Forgive us, Abba. We need to understand there's repercussions. If one person sins, the whole camp comes under destruction because of that person's sin. One man fell and everybody went with that man. So the same as when Joshua became obedient, everybody reaped of that obedience. And so that's why the Father wants us to be able to get to a place of understanding that, we're not going to be spared of everything. We're living in this wicked world. And we're going to see these things going on around us. But He's trying to prepare us, and He says, don't worry, that even if this of you is going to happen, He has a promise for you. I will sustain you. I will seal you. I will mark you. I will mold you to become everything I've created you to be. I will gird you up in truth. You can put your trust and confidence in me. I will become a resting place for you. I will give you my law and my providence that you may know what to walk in. You will become my sheep. My sheep, as a sheep, you need to hear His voice and you need to follow and obey what He tells you. I will increase my love in you. I will bring you out from that place where you shouldn't be. I will sustain you. You will become my dwelling place. I will inhabit you. These are the things that He's saying. But then we need to be able to be those that are surrendered and allowing Him to be able to do it, isn't it? So, this is where I'm going to finish off today. And then next week, I will continue with the prophetic dream that Abba gave me in October of 2014. And then we will pick up from there and we will look at, I want to see that we can, if there's Abba permits the time, that we're able to close off with that dream and with the vision of Noah on an ark. And that we can then close off this prophetic insight and see if we can get a better understanding. I pray that by the time we finish everything off, Abba will be able to give us a better understanding of what is He trying to show us, especially seeing as though we are in this time of the month of Elul, of preparation, to prepare our hearts. So I think the most important thing is that we really need to be able to really seek Abba and really ask Him, seek me, O Yahuwah, and see if there's anything that is within me that is not standing right before you. And even if there's things that I perceive to be right, that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I understood it to be like this, and maybe I'm wrong. And maybe I need a change, because maybe I thought that this was right, but maybe all along I was wrong. But that we can finally start to come into unity. Because if we are a bride that needs to come together, we need to come into unity. We can't all still be squabbling over little things. We're going to need to be able to bow our knee now and humble and come into the fullness of the things that Abba's got for us to come into. Because we want to be those that Abba can be able to use. Because let me tell you something, it's getting sick out there. And if we read that prophetic word that's just come out now by that Maurice man, and he spoke and he said, Father is going to raise up a spirit of Elijah, and his spirit of Elijah to take on those prophets of Baal and say, look, if you want to follow Yahuwah, follow him. If you want to follow Baal, follow him. But the thing is, we will not be able to go into mixed seed anymore. And this is the thing that I'm going to cover quite hectically next week, as this is something that Abba really started to reveal to me from end of 2014 and then into 2015 and continued into 2016, and he's still speaking to me about it now. He doesn't want mixed seed, because mixed seed is exactly what those people had in the beginning in Genesis. And if we are to be a righteous remnant that needs to be set apart, we're going to need to be able to shake off those things that he wants us to shake off, so that we can become that righteous remnant that are going to get it right in this final hour to display his glory to a dying world. So let us close off in prayer. Abba, I just want to praise and thank you for this time, my King. I just want to thank you, my Father, that you alone may be exalted in our lives. Abba, I pray truly in this time of Elul that you will shine your magnifying glass, Abba. Let it be like a bright spotlight. Shine your spotlight. Oh, Abba, please, will you shine that spotlight in my heart, Abba? Shine it in my life. And expose everything, my Father, everything that is standing up against you, that is not in line with the way you are and what this word says, and in the way that you want me to portray you on this earth. Shine your spotlight, Abba, and come and do a work. And I know that every time I pray this prayer, it means more fire to purge. But I ask you, Father, please, will you purge us as you've been purging our land with fire. You've been purging so many different places with fire. Purge your people's hearts, starting with me, Abba, starting with me. I ask you to start with me, Abba. Purge my heart with your fire, so that I may be one that may be able to come out like gold. Because, Abba, fire needs to come and be heated. When the gold needs to be purified, it needs to be put through to the 7 times it needs to be heated, so that eventually the goldsmith can see his reflection. Abba, whatever it is that is in me that is not reflecting you, I pray, Abba, root it out of me. Root it out of us, my Father. Root everything out of us, my King, that is not of you. Abba, help us, I pray, that so many of us, we've held on to our religious mindsets. Oh, my Father, if there's one thing that I do know is that so many of us have got religious mindsets, and there is going to be a great falling away in the times ahead, Abba, because we have got so many religious mindsets. People that are holding on to their religious ways and their religious things, and where so many believe that they're not going to go through anything because they will be spared of everything. Father, you will encourage us even in the midst of the storm. You are with us. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you're showing me that vision right now, Abba. Were they spared of being thrown in the fire? No, they were not. They had to be willing to be thrown in that fire. Was Daniel spared of being thrown in a lion's den? No, he was not. No, he was not. He was faithful to you to the point of where they hauled him out of his house, where his knee would bow and worship you and you alone, and where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow before the statue of King Nebuchadnezzar. Abba, there will be those in this hour where we're going to have to stand in a time of great darkness, where we will not take a mark, where we will only be marked by you, but we will not be marked by the world. And we will have to stand and take a stand in this hour, Abba. And you're showing me that right now. With Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were said, we will not bow. And they were willing to be thrown in a fiery furnace. But in that fiery furnace, those people came to see the glory of Yahuwah. And then they bowed to the true living Eloah. And Abba, that is what you're going to require of some of us in this hour. We're going to need to stand so that we may be able to show people your glory. So that people may be able to bow to who you are. Because they will see you and not us. Remove our flesh from the way, Abba. Remove our flesh. Remove our flesh from the way. So that you be exalted and only you. Remove our intellectual mindsets. Remove our religious mindsets. So that only you will be seen in the end. But Daniel was put in that lion's den for being obedient. And some of us are going to go through major persecution to be obedient. But he was an example for you. You closed the mouths of the lions, and that king saw who you are. And because of that, people were told to serve you through his love. I don't think we understand what you're really requiring of us in this time. But help us, Abba, that we will be obedient to you no matter what the cost. No matter what the cost. As we know, great darkness is on the horizon. And it has been since you released that word in 2014. But Abba, I pray that even in the midst of the darkness, you will hold us in the palm of your hand, as you did Daniel and as you did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and understanding they didn't know that you were going to do this, because they said, even if he doesn't deliver us, even if he doesn't save us, they said, our Yahuwah will save us. But even if he doesn't, we will not bow. So Abba, help us that even if it means that our heads will be beheaded, that we will not bow to anyone except you, or anything, or any man except you. Teach us, my Father, to have a reverential fear of you, as opposed to a fear of man, or a fear of those things around us. And that the more we see the darkness coming around us, the more we will reverentially fear you, to want to come in line with who you are and what you say. So I thank you, my Father. I thank you for your word, and I thank you for this message. And I thank you for the timing that we are in. And I thank you, Abba Father, that you will help each and every one of us to become a vessel of light in your hand in this time. I praise and I thank you for this in Yahushua's name. Amen.